The message traveled through space for 3 months before it reached the first listening post. The signal was crude by galactic standards, using basic radio waves and mathematical sequences that any spacefaring civilization could decode. When the translation came through, it made the station operators laugh. Ambassador Tae Woo stood in the broadcast center on Earth, watching the technicians send humanity's first message to the stars. He had spent 2 years working with scientists and world leaders to craft these words. Dr. Na-Ri stood beside him, her tablet showing the signal strength as it pushed deeper into space. "Do you think they'll listen?" Na-Ri asked. Tae Woo shook his head slowly. "Probably not. But we have to try." The message was simple. It contained information about Earth's location, basic science, samples of human culture, and one critical warning that Tae Woo had insisted on including. Most of the diplomatic committee thought it was too aggressive, but he had won the argument. The warning read, "Approach with peaceful intent. Humanity has survived because we are survivors. We do not seek conflict, but we will not surrender." Across the galaxy, the message arrived at the Galactic Council station. High Arbiter Vel'Thas, a being that looked like a large bird with silver feathers and intelligent eyes, read the translation with amusement. His council chamber filled with representatives from 40 different species, all chattering about the new discovery. "Another primitive world," War Marshal Quintar buzzed through his translator. The Vryn commander stood on 6 legs, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the station lights. "They barely have nuclear power and they dare to warn us?" Scholar Nixara, a small creature with tentacles and 3 eyes, studied the data more carefully. "Their world is classified as a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous fauna. Most species cannot survive on such planets. And yet they seem soft," Vel'Thas said, displaying images of humans. "No natural armor, no venom, no claws. Just another weak species that got lucky." The council chamber erupted in agreement. In the 10,000 years since the Galactic Council formed, they had encountered hundreds of species. The pattern was always the same. Advanced civilizations welcomed primitive ones with either friendship or conquest. The primitives always accepted because they had no choice. But Quintar saw opportunity. The Vryn Empire needed new resources. And this Earth was rich with metals and water. "I request permission to integrate this world into our territory," he announced. Vel'Thas considered this. Integration was a polite word for conquest. But it was legal under council rules if the primitive species refused to join peacefully. "Very well. You may make contact. If they resist, you may use necessary force. But remember the protocols." "Of course," Quintar clicked his mandibles together in what might have been a smile. Back on Earth, Captain Dae-hyun watched the night sky from the orbital defense station. He commanded a small fleet of ships that humanity had built over the past decade. They were nothing compared to what he imagined alien vessels might be, but they were something. His crew of 200 kept watch, always scanning for signals. "Sir, we're detecting something," Lieutenant Mi Young called from her station. "Multiple objects entering the solar system. They're big." Dae-hyun felt his stomach tighten. "Send word to Earth Command." "This is it." Commander Hai-Wan received the alert at Strategic Operations in Seoul. She had prepared for this moment, running simulations and war games for years. Now it was real. She activated the emergency protocols, and within minutes, military forces around the world went to high alert. The Vryn fleet consisted of 12 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved with confidence, not even bothering to hide their approach. When they reached Earth's orbit, they broadcast their message. "Primitive humans. We are the Vryn Empire, representatives of the Galactic Council. You will submit to integration within your solar day. Resistance is pointless. Your technology is inferior. Accept our guidance or face consequences." Tae-Woo listened to the message with Hai-Wan and the military command. They didn't even pretend to be friendly. He said quietly, "We gave them a warning," Hai-Wan replied. "They chose to ignore it." "What do we do?" asked Colonel Yun So, head of Special Operations. Hai-Wan looked at the data. 12 ships versus their entire fleet. The numbers were bad, but she had studied human history. Humans had won impossible battles before. We prepare. And we make them regret not listening. The Vryn commander sent a small landing force to Seoul, confident that a show of force would break human resistance. 10 Vryn soldiers in powered armor landed in the city center. They fired energy weapons at military vehicles, disabling them easily. Civilians ran, screaming. Soldiers fired conventional weapons that bounced off the alien armor. Private Huan Li watched from a building nearby, his rifle useless against the invaders. But he noticed something. The aliens were arrogant, standing in the open, barely paying attention to their surroundings. He grabbed his radio. They're not even trying to take cover. They think we're no threat. Within hours, Dr. Jin Ha, a military engineer, was studying the disabled vehicles. The alien weapons used directed energy, but the principles weren't completely foreign. She called her team. I need everything we have on electromagnetic pulse weapons. If we can understand their frequency, we can block it. As the deadline approached, Tae-woo prepared a response. He stood before cameras, knowing the Vryn were watching. You came to our world with threats. You ignored our warning. You assumed we would surrender because our technology is younger than yours. You made a mistake. When the deadline passed, the Vryn attacked. Energy beams struck military bases, but humans had evacuated them hours before. The aliens landed more troops, expecting quick victory. What they found instead were empty cities, turned into traps. Humans had learned warfare over thousands of years, fighting each other in every environment on their deadly world. They knew how to ambush, how to hide, how to make the enemy pay for every meter of ground. Lieutenant Mi Young led a squadron of fighters against the Vryn ships. Her aircraft were slower and less powerful, but she used Earth's atmosphere as a weapon. She dove into clouds, forcing the alien fighters to follow, then pulled up sharply. The Vryn pilots, unfamiliar with atmospheric combat, crashed into mountains. After 3 days of fighting, the Vryn landing force retreated to their ships. They had lost 40 soldiers. Hundreds of humans had died, but the aliens were shaken. These primitives fought back. They adapted. They learned. War Marshal Quintar watched the reports with growing rage. He sent a message to the council. These humans are more dangerous than expected. I request a full battle fleet. Scholar Nix Ara reviewed the battle data with concern. She searched the archives, looking for information about death worlds and the species that evolved on them. What she found made her uneasy. Vel'Thas approved the fleet deployment. Crush them quickly. Make an example. But in the back of his mind, he wondered about that warning. Humanity are deadly. Maybe they should have listened. Commander Bin Suk floated in zero gravity, watching Earth rotate below him. The orbital defense station had become the center of humanity's resistance. Ships moved in and out constantly, carrying supplies and wounded soldiers. He checked the countdown timer on his screen. The Vryn main fleet would arrive in 42 days. Not enough time, he muttered. Lieutenant Mi Young drifted through the doorway, her flight suit still dirty from her last mission. We disabled another one of their scout ships. The pilot ejected before we could capture it. Bin Suk nodded. Every small victory counted. The Vryn had pulled back their forces but kept scouts watching Earth. What did we learn? Their ships are fast but not agile. They rely on shields and armor, not evasion. Mi Young pulled up a hologram showing the battle. They fight like they expect to win through superior firepower. They don't improvise. Down on Earth, Colonel Yun Seo gathered her team of special operations soldiers. Private Huan Li stood among them, his rifle now modified with technology they had pulled from captured Vryn equipment. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Listen carefully, Yun Seo said. The big fleet is coming. We can't beat them in open battle, but we can make them bleed. We can make them afraid. Fear is a weapon, and we know how to use it. The team spread out across multiple continents. Their mission was simple but dangerous. When the Vryn fleet arrived, human soldiers would already be hiding on their ships. The aliens had no idea that during the first battle, human commandos had snuck aboard damaged Vrin vessels before they retreated. Dr. Eun-ji worked in a secret laboratory beneath Seoul. She was young for a lead scientist, barely 30. But her mind worked faster than anyone else on her team. The alien technology they captured was advanced, but it wasn't magic. Energy had to come from somewhere. Matter followed physical laws. She could understand it. The problem is power, she explained to her assistants. Their weapons need enormous energy. But if we can create a surge, overload their systems. Her assistant, a tired-looking man named Dr. Woo-bin, looked up from his calculations. You want to make their own weapons explode? Exactly. General Kwon-sik commanded Earth's military forces from a bunker in Switzerland. He was old, gray-haired, and had fought in 3 wars before the aliens arrived. War was his life's work, and he understood it better than most. They'll come with overwhelming force, he told his commanders during a video conference. They want to terrify us into surrender. They'll target our cities, our infrastructure. They think if they hit us hard enough, we'll break. Ambassador Tae-woo joined the conference from the United Nations building. Can we negotiate? Can we negotiate? They won't negotiate with primitives, Kwon-sik said flatly. In their eyes, we're animals. They'll only talk after we prove we're equals. That means we have to hurt them. Dr. Na-ri had a different job now. She led a team studying Vrin psychology through their intercepted communications. What she learned was disturbing but useful. They're warriors by culture, she reported. Fighting is how they gain status. But they've never faced prolonged resistance. Every species they've conquered gave up after the first major defeat. They don't understand persistence. Good, Kwon-sik said. We'll teach them. Across the galaxy, scholar Nixara continued her research. She found records of other death worlds, planets where evolution created especially dangerous species. Most death world species were physically powerful, with natural weapons and armor. Humans were different. She read about human history with growing horror. They hunted animals larger and stronger than themselves by simply not giving up. They tracked prey for days, weeks even, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They survived ice ages by working together and creating tools. When they ran out of large prey, they invented agriculture. When they ran out of land, they built boats and crossed oceans. Every challenge made them stronger. Every setback taught them something new. She sent a message to High Arbiter Velthus. I recommend caution with the humans. They are not like other species we have encountered. Velthus dismissed her concerns. Quintar has 500 ships. The humans have fewer than 50. The math is simple. The Vrin war fleet entered Earth's solar system like a storm. 500 vessels of various sizes, from small fighters to massive battleships. War Marshal Quintar stood on his flagship's bridge, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. This would be over quickly. Broadcast our terms, he ordered. Total surrender, or total destruction. Captain Dae-hyun received the message on the orbital station. He looked at his crew, men and women who had trained for years knowing this moment might come. Response? He asked. His communications officer, a young woman named Soo-jin, smiled grimly. General Kwon-sik says to tell them, come and take it. The Vrin fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. They had fought hundreds of battles across the galaxy and never lost. Their tactics were proven. Their technology was superior. Victory was certain. The first warning sign came when their sensors detected movement. Small human ships, barely worth noticing, scattered in unusual patterns. Quintar ignored them, probably evacuating their stations. The second warning came when the small ships suddenly accelerated toward the Vrin fleet at impossible speeds. By the time Quintar realized what was happening, it was too late. The human ships weren't evacuating. They were missiles, piloted missiles. Lieutenant Mi Young sat in her fighter's cockpit, watching the Vrin battleship grow larger in her screen. Her aircraft was old, outdated, and filled with every explosive the engineers could fit. She thought about her family, her friends, everyone on Earth depending on her. For Earth, she whispered, and pushed her throttle to maximum. She wasn't alone. 30 other pilots did the same thing, their ships screaming toward the Vryn fleet. The aliens fired their weapons, destroying most of the incoming fighters, but some got through. Mi Young's ship struck the battleship's port side, and 10 tons of explosives detonated. The blast tore through armor and shields, ripping a hole in the massive vessel. 2 more fighters hit the same ship, and it broke apart, debris spinning into space. Across the battlefield, human sacrifice tactics shocked the Vryn. They had never seen anything like it. Species didn't suicide to destroy their enemies. It was insane. They didn't understand. Humans knew how to calculate acceptable losses. They knew when sacrifice was necessary. Captain Dae-hyun watched Mi Young's fighter disappear in a flash of light. He felt tears on his face but didn't wipe them away. "Fire all weapons," he ordered quietly. "Make her sacrifice count." The orbital defense station and the remaining human fleet opened fire. Their weapons were weaker than Vryn guns, but they had learned to target specific points. Engines, shield generators, communication arrays. War Marshal Quintar ordered his fleet to spread out and return fire. Energy beams lanced through space, destroying human ships and stations. Hundreds died in seconds, but the humans kept fighting. On Earth's surface, the real surprise was waiting. When Vryn troops landed in major cities, they found them empty. The humans had evacuated millions of people in the weeks before the battle. The cities were traps. Private Hwan Lee hid in a building in Tokyo, watching Vryn soldiers march through the streets. His modified rifle hummed as it charged. Dr. Jinha's team had given him something special. He aimed carefully and fired. The beam hit a Vryn soldier's power pack. The alien's armor exploded, killing 2 others nearby. Hwan Lee was already moving to his next position before they could return fire. All across Earth, human soldiers used guerrilla tactics. They didn't fight fair. They hit and ran. They used the terrain. They made the aliens afraid to turn corners. The battle raged for 3 days. The Vryn lost 70 ships and thousands of soldiers. Humans lost more, but they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. On the 4th day, something unprecedented happened. A human commando team that had been hiding on a Vryn ship since the first battle activated their mission. They sabotaged the ship's reactor, and when it exploded, it took 4 nearby vessels with it. War Marshal Quintar stared at the reports in disbelief. How could primitives do this? Where did they learn such tactics? Scholar Nixera sent another message. They learned by fighting each other for thousands of years. They know war better than we do. For the first time in his military career, Quintar felt something unfamiliar. He felt uncertain. The Vryn fleet pulled back to the outer solar system to regroup. War Marshal Quintar paced his bridge, trying to understand what went wrong. His forces still outnumbered the humans 5-1. He still had superior technology. Yet his soldiers were afraid. "They fight like demons," one of his commanders reported. "They hide in their cities and turn every building into a fortress. We lose soldiers with every step we take." Quintar's mandibles clicked in frustration. "They are primitives. We should crush them easily." But the numbers told a different story. In 3 days of fighting, the Vryn had lost more soldiers than in their last 10 campaigns combined. The humans lost more. But they didn't seem to care about losses. They just kept coming. On Earth, medic Ray Sun worked in an underground hospital in what used to be Seoul. She moved between beds, treating wounded soldiers and civilians. The injuries were terrible. Burns from energy weapons, broken bones from building collapses, radiation sickness from damaged power plants. But what amazed her was that many soldiers demanded to return to combat. A young man with a bandaged chest grabbed her arm. "How soon can I fight again?" "You need at least a week," she told him. "We might not have a week. Give me painkillers and let me go." She saw this again and again. Humans pushing their bodies beyond normal limits. She remembered something her grandmother once said. Humans are the only animals that can decide to ignore pain. The Vryn were learning this the hard way. Intelligence Officer Da Hoon ran a psychological operations program from a secret bunker. His team intercepted Vryn communications and analyzed them for weaknesses. What he discovered was valuable. They're hierarchical, he explained to General Quan Sik. Orders flow down from commanders. Soldiers don't think independently. If we can disrupt their command structure, they'll be confused. How do we do that? Quan Sik asked. Da Hoon smiled. We make them paranoid. We plant false information. We make them question everything. His team began broadcasting fake messages on Vryn frequencies, disguised as legitimate communications. False retreat orders, fake casualty reports, warnings about human weapons that didn't exist. The Vryn intercepted these messages and didn't know what was real. Some ships retreated when they shouldn't have. Others held position waiting for reinforcements that never came. Confusion spread through their ranks. Scholar Nixera continued studying human history, and each discovery disturbed her more. She learned about human endurance hunting, where ancient humans chased animals until the prey collapsed from heat exhaustion. Humans had less speed but better cooling systems. They could run for hours in conditions that killed other predators. She learned about human warfare. Thousands of years of combat experience. Every culture on Earth had developed different tactics, different strategies. Humans understood siege warfare, naval combat, aerial dogfighting, guerrilla resistance, psychological operations. They had written books analyzing every aspect of war. The Vryn, by comparison, had grown comfortable. They fought the same way every time because it always worked. Against humans, it didn't work. Nixera sent a detailed report to the Galactic Council. Humans are persistence predators. They don't need to be stronger or faster. They just need to outlast their enemies. This is how they evolved. This is what they do. High Arbiter Velthus read the report with growing concern. He called an emergency council session. Meanwhile, human engineers made breakthroughs every day. Dr. Unji's team cracked the Vryn shield technology and developed countermeasures. Dr. Wubin created hybrid weapons combining human and alien tech. These weapons weren't as powerful as pure Vryn technology, but they worked, and humans could build them quickly. Pilot Su Jin tested a new fighter equipped with stolen Vryn engines and human weapons. The hybrid design was ugly and crude, but it was faster than anything humanity had before. She pushed it through maneuvers that would kill most pilots, her body straining against forces that would break a normal person. But Su Jin wasn't normal. None of Earth's pilots were. They had trained in high-gravity centrifuges, pulling more G-forces than their alien enemies could survive. Humans came from a heavy-gravity world. Their bodies could take punishment. She radioed back to base. This thing flies like a brick, but I can make it work. How many can we build? 40 by next week, came the response. Su Jin grinned. Make it 60. We'll need them. Private Wan Li led his squad through the ruins of Tokyo. The Vryn had bombarded the city, but humans still controlled it. His team had become experts at urban warfare, learning to move through buildings, setting ambushes, disappearing before the enemy could respond. They found a group of Vryn soldiers searching an apartment complex. Huan Li signaled his team to spread out. They didn't have numerical superiority. They didn't have better weapons, but they had experience and desperation. The ambush lasted 30 seconds. Human soldiers fired from multiple directions, then disappeared into the maze of buildings. 5 Vryn died. The survivors retreated, afraid to advance further. They're learning to fear the city, Huan Li reported. Commander Bin Suk coordinated space operations from a new orbital station. The Vryn had destroyed the first one, but humans had built another. They always rebuilt. That was what humans did. They fell down and got back up. He studied tactical displays showing Vryn fleet positions. They're staying at long range. They won't close for direct combat. His tactical officer nodded. They learned we'll suicide ram them if they get too close. Then we need to force them in close, Bin Suk said. Prepare the civilian fleet. Quote, hundreds of civilian ships, freighters and passenger vessels were retrofitted with weapons and explosives. They weren't military grade, but they didn't need to be. The plan was simple. Force the Vryn to either engage or retreat. Either outcome favored humanity. On the Galactic Council station, debate raged. Some species argued for intervention to stop the fighting. Others wanted to let the Vryn finish what they started. But everyone was watching. High Arbiter Velthas addressed the council. I propose we send a diplomatic mission to Earth. This war serves no purpose. War Marshal Quintar's image appeared on the screen, transmitted from his flagship. No. I will not accept defeat from primitives. I will crush them. But Velthas saw something in the War Marshal's eyes. It wasn't confidence. It was pride. Quintar couldn't admit he was wrong. He couldn't accept that the primitives were winning. Scholar Nixara spoke up. The humans gave us a warning. We ignored it. Now we're paying the price for our arrogance. They cannot win, Quintar insisted. I still outnumber them. I still have superior technology. You had those advantages from the start, Nixara said quietly. Yet you're losing soldiers every day. How many more will die before you accept the truth? Humans don't surrender. That's what makes them deadly. General Kwansik met with Earth's leadership in a secure bunker. The president, a tired-looking woman named President G1, reviewed casualty reports. We've lost 3 million people. Our cities are ruins. How long can we sustain this? As long as we have to, Kwansik replied. The Vryn are weakening. Their morale is breaking. Every day they fight us, they lose confidence. Every day we survive, we get stronger. Ambassador Taewoo agreed. We're receiving diplomatic messages from other council species. Some want to mediate. They're realizing we won't be easy to conquer. Good, President G1 said. But we can't appear desperate. We negotiate from strength, or not at all. Dr. Na-Ri analyzed intercepted Vryn communications and found something interesting. They're arguing among themselves. Some commanders want to retreat. Others want to escalate. They're not unified anymore. Kwansik smiled grimly. Then we push harder. We don't give them time to reorganize. The next phase of the war began with a human offensive. It was small. Just 50 ships. But they struck at a Vryn supply convoy at the edge of the solar system. The attack was surgical and brutal. Humans destroyed the convoy and retreated before reinforcements arrived. War Marshal Quintar realized the terrible truth. The humans were no longer defending. They were attacking. The primitives had become predators. He sent a message to the Galactic Council. I require additional forces. For the first time in Council history, the request was denied. High Arbiter Velthas delivered the decision personally. You started this war against our advice. You will finish it with the forces you have. No more. Quintar felt his world crumbling. His empire's reputation was at stake. His personal honor was at risk. But most terrifying of all, he was starting to believe the humans might actually win. Fleet Admiral Han Sol took command of Earth's combined forces 3 months after the war began. She was younger than most admirals, only 45, but she had earned her rank through brilliance and ruthlessness. When President G1 asked her if Earth could win, Han Sol answered simply, "If we're willing to pay the price." "What price?" the president asked. "Everything." The Vryn fleet had lost 140 ships to human attacks. But they still had over 300 vessels. War Marshal Quintar decided to end the war with one massive assault. He would land on Earth with overwhelming force and occupy the major cities. Without their command centers, humans would have to surrender. He was wrong about humans. But he didn't know that yet. Commander Bin Suk detected the Vryn fleet movement from his orbital station. They're coming in force. Every ship they have. This is their final push. Han Sol watched the tactical display. 300 ships versus 47 human vessels. The math was terrible. But she had been preparing for this. All ships begin evacuation procedures. Skeleton crews only. Everyone else gets to the planet. Her officers looked confused. "Admiral, we need those crews to fight." "No. Han Sol said calmly. "We need those ships to die. The crews need to live to fight tomorrow." Captain Dae-hyun understood immediately. They were going to sacrifice the fleet. He began evacuating his ship, the destroyer named Indomitable. His crew of 300 was reduced to just 10 volunteers. He looked at them, these brave souls who refused to leave. "We're going to hurt them," he promised. "Then we're getting out. No heroic deaths today. We save that for when it matters most." The space battle began when the Vryn fleet entered Earth's orbit. Human ships met them head-on, firing everything they had. It looked like a conventional battle, but it was a trap. Dr. Jin Ha had spent weeks placing modified satellites throughout Earth's orbital space. They looked like debris from destroyed stations, but each one contained a massive explosive charge. When Vryn ships moved into position, pursuing human vessels, Han Sol gave the order. Detonate. 50 satellites exploded simultaneously. The blasts weren't powerful enough to destroy Vryn ships, but they created electromagnetic pulses that disrupted shields and sensors. For exactly 40 seconds, the Vryn fleet was blind and vulnerable. Human ships used those 40 seconds perfectly. Captain Dae-hyun's Indomitable rammed a Vryn cruiser at full speed, his skeleton crew escaping in pods seconds before impact. The collision split the cruiser in half. All across the battlefield, human ships executed suicide runs with skeleton crews, then abandoned ship at the last moment. The Vryn couldn't tell which ships were manned and which were missiles. They wasted precious time trying to destroy all of them. Captain Yuna commanded the carrier vessel called Defiant. She waited until a Vryn battleship moved into position, then launched every fighter and drone she had. 200 small craft swarmed the battleship, overwhelming its defenses. The battleship's shields collapsed, and human torpedoes finished it. Yuna's ship took heavy damage from return fire. The bridge was hit, and she felt something break in her chest. Blood filled her mouth. Her crew screamed damage reports, but she could barely hear them. "Ramming course," she ordered, her voice weak. "Everyone to escape pods." "That's an order. Admiral, you need medical." "I said get out," Yuna shouted, coughing blood. "I'll set the autopilot." "Go." Her crew reluctantly abandoned ship. Yuna sat alone on the bridge of her dying carrier, aiming it at the Vryn flagship. She thought about her family, her husband, her daughter. She hoped they would understand why she did this. The Defiant struck the Vryn flagship's engines. The massive ship lurched, its power systems failing. 40 smaller Vryn vessels nearby lost coordination as their command ship went dark. War Marshal Quintar felt his ship shake. Emergency systems activated. "Report," he demanded. "Human carrier struck our stern. Multiple systems offline. We're losing power." He couldn't believe it. A primitive vessel had crippled his flagship. The shame was unbearable. On Earth's surface, the ground war intensified. Vryn dropships landed in every major city, deploying thousands of troops. But the cities were ready. Sergeant Lee Tae commanded the defense of what remained of London. His soldiers had turned the city into a killing ground. Every street was mined. Every building was fortified. They had spent weeks preparing. Vryn soldiers advanced in formation, their armor gleaming. Lee Tae waited until they reached the city center. Then, he triggered the first trap. Underground gas lines that had been modified to create massive explosions detonated beneath the Vryn formation. The blast killed dozens and scattered the rest. Human soldiers opened fire from windows and rooftops. The Vryn tried to return fire, but they couldn't see their targets. Humans moved through tunnels and passages, attacking from unexpected directions. Lee Tae's soldiers used hit-and-run tactics, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. "They can't fight what they can't find," Lee Tae told his troops. "Keep moving. Keep them scared. Keep moving." In New York, Private Juan Lee faced a different challenge. A Vryn war machine, a massive walker with heavy weapons, stomped through the streets. Regular weapons bounced off its armor, but Juan Lee had an idea. "We can't destroy it," he told his squad, "but we can disable it." They used the subway tunnels to get beneath the walker. Huan Li placed explosive charges on its leg joints. When the charges detonated, the walker toppled over. Helpless, human soldiers swarmed it, finding weak points in the armor and destroying it from within. Similar battles occurred worldwide. Humans used terrain, weather, and tactics to offset Vrin technological superiority. In Moscow, a blizzard blinded alien sensors. In Cairo, heat and sand jammed their equipment. In Mumbai, monsoon rains turned their position into mud. Engineer Dai Jin completed his secret weapon in an underground facility beneath Beijing. It was crude and unstable, but it would work once. He had combined captured Vrin power cores with human nuclear technology, creating a bomb unlike anything either species had built before. How powerful is it? General Quan Sik asked. Enough to destroy 50 ships if they're close together, Dai Jin replied. But we only get one shot. After it detonates, they'll know what we did and adjust their tactics. One shot is all we need. Admiral Han Sol lured the Vrin fleet into a tight formation by pretending to flee. Her remaining ships ran toward Earth's moon, acting defeated. Quintar, desperate for a decisive victory, ordered his fleet to pursue. Close formation, he commanded. Don't let them escape. The Vrin ships bunched together, surrounding the retreating humans. It was exactly what Han Sol wanted. Now, she transmitted on all frequencies. A small shuttle, automated and flying on autopilot, emerged from behind the moon. It moved slowly, almost lazily, toward the Vrin fleet. The aliens detected it but assumed it was debris, or a decoy. They were half right. It was a decoy. Just not the kind they thought. The shuttle reached the center of the Vrin formation and exploded. The blast from Dai Jin's weapon was massive. A miniature sun that expanded in all directions. Vrin shields failed instantly. Hull plating melted, ships collided as they tried to escape. When the light faded, 63 Vrin vessels were gone. Another 20 were damaged beyond repair. The remaining ships scattered in panic. War Marshal Quintar watched his fleet die. In one terrible moment, he lost more ships than in the entire rest of the war. His flagship systems were barely functional. His crew reported casualties in the thousands. Retreat, he said quietly. All ships retreat to the outer system. His second-in-command stared at him. Marshal, we still outnumber them. Retreat, Quintar roared. Now! The Vrin fleet fled. For the first time in their empire's history, they were running from an enemy. Human ships pursued, hunting stragglers like wolves chasing wounded prey. Commander He Bin led a squadron of hybrid fighters, chasing a damaged Vrin destroyer. They're running, she said with satisfaction. Let's make sure they remember why. Her squadron destroyed the destroyer and 3 escort frigates. Other human units reported similar successes. The predators had become prey. On the Galactic Council station, representatives watched in stunned silence. Scholar Nix Ara spoke to the quiet chamber. They warned us. Earth gave us one warning, and we ignored it. Now we see what happens when you ignore a predator's warning. High Arbiter Velthas turned to the Vrin ambassador. Your marshal has failed. Earth stands. What happens now? The ambassador had no answer. His people had never lost before. They didn't know how to respond to defeat. The war ended not with a final battle but with silence. War Marshal Quintar's remaining ships limped to the outer solar system and stopped. They didn't attack. They didn't retreat further. They just waited. Admiral Han Sol stood on the bridge of her new flagship, a captured Vrin cruiser that human engineers had renamed Phoenix. She watched the alien fleet through her sensors. What are they doing? What? Waiting for orders, her tactical officer replied. Their command structure is broken. They don't know what to do. Han Sol considered ordering a final attack to destroy the remaining Vrin ships. She had the advantage now. But General Quan Sik's words echoed in her mind. We fight to survive, not to conquer. Hold position, she ordered. Let them wait. On Earth, cities burned, and people mourned. The death toll had reached 8 million. Entire cities were in ruins. But humanity had survived. And that was what mattered. President G1 addressed the world from a makeshift command center. We did not want this war. We warned them. They came anyway. And now, they know what we are capable of. We are survivors. We are human. And we will rebuild. Ambassador Taewoo received an unexpected message. The Galactic Council requested his presence for negotiations. He prepared carefully, knowing this meeting would determine Earth's future. Dr. Na-Ri accompanied him as chief advisor. They respect strength. We proved we have that. But we need to show wisdom too. Can we do both? Taewoo asked. We have to try. The council station was massive, larger than any human structure. Taewoo and Na-Ri arrived in a human shuttle, escorted by 2 fighters. The symbolism was clear. Earth could reach the stars, and it would not travel unarmed. High Arbiter Velthas greeted them personally. The tall avian being studied the humans with new eyes. Ambassador Taewoo, we should have listened to your warning. Yes. Taewoo replied simply. You should have. The council chamber was full. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the humans entered. Scholar Nixara stood and bowed her tentacles in respect. I studied your history. I tried to warn them. I apologize for my people's ignorance. Accepted, Taewoo said. What happens now? Velthas gestured to an empty seat. That is what we must discuss. War Marshal Quintar appeared via hologram, too ashamed to attend in person. His once proud bearing was gone. The Vrin Empire acknowledges defeat. We await Earth's terms. Taewoo had discussed this moment with Earth's leaders. They could demand revenge, reparations, territory. The Vrin were weak now. Earth could hurt them badly, but that wasn't who humans wanted to be. We have 4 demands, Taewoo said. First, immediate withdrawal of all Vrin forces from our solar system. Second, full recognition of Earth's sovereignty. Third, technology exchange on equal terms, not as primitives receiving charity, but as equals trading knowledge. Fourth, a seat on this council. The chamber erupted in discussion. Several species objected. They are too primitive. One ambassador argued. They barely have spaceflight. Dr. Na-Ri stood. We were primitive 3 months ago. Then we defeated the most powerful military in the galaxy. We proved we belong here. Scholar Nixara supported them. The law is clear. Any species that defeats a council member in war earns the right to join. Earth has earned its place. Velthas called for a vote. When the results came in, Earth had won by a narrow margin. They were now part of the Galactic Council. Taewoo bowed. We accept this honor. But we also propose a 5th term. What is it? Velthas asked. The Vrin Empire must pay reparations, but not to Earth. They must pay by helping rebuild our world. Their engineers will work alongside ours. Their soldiers will clear rubble and rescue survivors. They will see the damage they caused and help fix it. Quintar's image flickered. You want us to serve you? No, Taewoo said firmly. We want you to understand us. You came to our world thinking we were weak. You learned we are deadly. Now learn that we are also capable of mercy. Help us rebuild, and perhaps your people will understand why you should have listened to our warning. The council approved this unusual term. Quintar had no choice but to accept. Over the following months, Vrin workers arrived on Earth. They expected hatred and violence. Instead, they found humans willing to work beside them. Sergeant Lee Tae, who had fought Vrin soldiers in the streets of London, now coordinated with them to clear debris and rescue trapped civilians. Why don't you hate us? A young Vrin worker asked him one day. Lee Tae thought about this. I hate what you did. I hate that you made us fight. But you're here now. Helping. That means something. The Vrin workers learned about human resilience firsthand. They saw cities rebuilding faster than thought possible. They saw families who had lost everything still finding reasons to smile. They saw the same humans who had fought so viciously also showing kindness to their former enemies. Commander Bin Suk oversaw the integration of human and alien technology. Dr. Unji and Dr. Wu Bin worked with Vrin scientists, sharing knowledge freely. The aliens were shocked by how quickly humans learned. "Your species adapts faster than any I've seen," a Vrin engineer admitted to Unji. "We had to," she replied. "Our world didn't give us a choice. Adapt or die. We chose to adapt." Admiral Han Sol took command of the first joint human-alien defense fleet. Her crew included humans and several other species who had volunteered. Even a few Vrin joined, soldiers who wanted to prove their people could change. She addressed her mixed crew from the Phoenix's bridge. "We come from different worlds. We fought each other. But now we work together. Some of you may wonder why. The answer is simple. The galaxy is dangerous. We're stronger together than apart." Captain Dae Hyun, who had survived the space battles, served as her second in command. He walked through the ship, seeing humans and aliens working side by side. It seemed impossible after everything that happened. But here it was. Private Huan Li returned to civilian life. But the military called him back to train new soldiers. He taught urban warfare tactics to troops from multiple species. His lessons were brutal and honest. Humans survived by being adaptable and relentless, he told a class of mixed students. "You can learn these traits. Being deadly isn't about strength or technology. It's about never giving up, no matter the odds." Scholar Nixara published her research on humanity, and it became required reading in military academies across the galaxy. The title was simple: Death World Survivors, Why Technology Cannot Replace Experience. The Galactic Council changed after Earth joined. Other species began questioning old assumptions. Maybe primitive didn't mean weak. Maybe survival experience was valuable. Maybe the galaxy needed different perspectives. High Arbiter Velthus met privately with Ambassador Tae Wu 1 year after the war. "I underestimated your people." "We all did. I'm sorry for that. You learned," Tae Wu replied. "That's what matters. The warning wasn't a threat. It was information. We told you what we were. You chose not to listen. Now you know better." "What will Earth do with its new position?" Velthos asked. Tae Wu smiled. "We'll do what we've always done. Survive, adapt, and help others do the same. The galaxy is full of threats. We know how to face threats. We'll share that knowledge." President Ji-won gave a speech on the anniversary of the war's end. She stood in Seoul, in a square that had been destroyed and rebuilt. "We lost millions. We suffered terribly. But we survived. And we taught the galaxy an important lesson. Warnings should be taken seriously. When someone tells you they're dangerous, believe them." General Kwon Sik retired. But before he did, he established a military academy that trained soldiers from multiple species in human combat tactics. The first class included both human and Vrin students. "You'll learn to fight like humans," he told them. "That means you'll learn to never surrender. To turn every disadvantage into an advantage. To survive when survival seems impossible. These aren't just military skills, they're life skills." Dr. Na Ri became Earth's chief xenologist, studying other species and helping humanity understand its new galactic neighbors. She often thought about the warning Earth had sent. "We told them we were survivors," she said during a lecture. "We told them we were deadly. They thought it was bravado. But it was just the truth. Humans survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We survived because we refused to quit. That's not a threat. It's a fact." Commander Hai Bin led exploration missions to other parts of the galaxy. Her ships carried human and alien crew members, exploring together. When they encountered new species, she always started with the same message: "We come in peace. We hope you'll accept friendship. But know this: if you choose hostility, you'll learn why Earth gave the galaxy one warning. We are deadly. Because we survive everything. Choose wisely." War Marshal Quintar never recovered from his defeat. He resigned in disgrace, replaced by younger Vryn leaders who understood the galaxy had changed. Some Vryn adapted well to the new reality. Others struggled with their fallen pride. But even the proudest Vryn admitted one thing. Earth's warning had been accurate. Humanity was deadly. Not because they were strong, but because they never stopped fighting. 5 years after the war, Captain Dae Hyun stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, leading a patrol along the galactic frontier. His crew was diverse, experienced, and capable. They had learned from each other, combining different species' strengths. He thought about that first message Earth sent to the stars, the warning that started everything. It had cost millions of lives, but it had also earned humanity respect. His communications officer, a young human named Ji-ho, spoke up. "Captain, we're detecting a distress call. Unknown species. Under attack by pirates." Dae-hyun didn't hesitate. "Set course. Full speed. Show them what Earth's warning meant." The Phoenix accelerated, carrying its mixed crew toward danger. They were survivors. They were deadly. And now, they used that strength to protect others. The warning had been heard. The lesson had been learned. And the galaxy was better for it.